Our next author, Werner Pretorius. Werner holds a degree in publishing and English from the University of Pretoria, as well as an MA in creative writing from the University of Cape Town. He has published flash fiction in A Look Away magazine and short stories in the sci-fi and horror quarterly, Something Wicked. He lives in Cape Town and works at the Book Lounge.
Thank you. This story is called Three's a Crowd. Life, for Walter, had become a journey from one rudimentary task to the next. Since he found himself forced into an early retirement at 48, the dismissal document citing severe mental deficiency as a reason, he had become a slave of the mundane. Insomnia was a constant companion, and he still experienced bad spells where his memory of the week before turned into a jumbled mess, leaving him with no recollection of where he had been or what he had done. On this dreary Wednesday morning, like on so many others, he could be found at the kitchen sink, rinsing the dishes and looking out over his backyard. Acting on the advice of his psychiatrist, he had begun keeping a diary to keep track of the hours in the day. What he had found was that there were so many of them, so little to do, and so much time to do it in. He was looking at the garden shed in the corner of the yard most of all. He had set tomorrow aside to tidy and clean it. It was this train of thought that was interrupted when the doorbell rang not 20 minutes later. Or was it 25? He opened the door and found Rebecca standing there, looking as miserable as the weather. He could see she had been crying. "Walter, can I come in?" "Sure," he said, stepping out of the way, inviting her in. Instead of going past him, she came straight for him, embracing him. He held her for as long as she would be held, and when she stepped away, he caught a whiff of her perfume. That old familiar pang of loss he had come to associate with her stabbed him in the chest again. "Have you seen Bradley? I mean, I know the two of you don't get along, but you haven't bumped into him by accident." She was almost pleading. "Bex, the last time I saw him was at your wedding. Why?" "He didn't come home last Tuesday. I don't know where to turn, what to do." "Have you called the police?" "They've been looking, but haven't found anything." "My God, Bex, I'm sorry. Sit down, I'll make you a cup of tea." They sat down, talked about Bradley, talked about the old days. She inquired after Walter's health, to which he merely shrugged. And in a while she was ready to leave, probably to go home and worry more than anything. "Call me if you hear anything, will you?" She hugged him again. "Of course." Then she turned to go. "Rebecca." "Yes?" "Do you think we would ever have worked? I mean, if it wasn't for Bradley." "Don't talk like that." He turned to his dishes and stared out the kitchen window again, but as he stood there, an image came to him. Bradley is walking towards him, extending a hand, forcing a smile. "Hi, Walter. What a surprise to see you here." "It's not at the wedding. It's in a building supply store." And Walter asks whether Bradley's got a moment. Walter has these planks he could use a hand carrying to his car, you see. Walter also has a screwdriver, but this he slips in his back pocket, and Bradley says, "Sure thing. Where are you parked?" "Round the back." Tomorrow he will clean the shed, and thinking of the shed he realizes for the first time that he is dreading this task. Sheds are by nature places you stash forgotten things, and there's no telling what you may find once you begin to dig through the rubble.